Good morning, Rabbi Sai. Lili nishmasi mimi rosi ruspas Mordechai. Shalom aleichem, Rabbi Yisrael. I'm putting it all together now. My daughter said, you met my daughter yesterday? Okay, that's what it was. My daughter does hair, and she did 4 MDY chasanas in this week. 4, like the people come from America. Hey, she's top stuff, whatever. But she said a guy came with a cap and a. She did my hair. Okay. Unbelievable. Huh? You get what? I thought you were going to say MDY. Anybody that uses her gets a 10% discount. No. All right, she's good. I'm saying her. She says a guy comes in with the whole gear, the whole jacket, the hat. Okay. I can't even say what she said about it. It's your mother? Yeah. Oh, my wife liked that Maisa. What's the Maisa? His mother comes in and she says, oh, my son loves your son, Rebelli, my son watches your father's shiur, my son. It's Maisa Shaya? I don't know about that. Okay. Yeah, AK Construction. I'm a diehard Rebelli guy, but I have to admit that I slip sometimes, and here it is. Here's his screenshot of the Ami magazine cover, but what is he watching? If you look closely, I don't know if you can see it. Some Magachir from Lakewood. I have your picture on his screensaver, but with me in the middle of listening to Shuli Bornstein. I give a shiur. He's a Magachir. And I always make sure to listen to your daf. However, we stick in Reb Shuli too sometimes. All right, Shkoyach. Please keep my name anonymous. Hi, I just want to thank you for your amazing sharing and encouragement. Joined your shiur approximately a year ago. I started with Beitza. 8 months ago, my wife was in a serious accident. She was hospitalized on bed rest. Baruch Hashem had a baby 4 months ago. It was a preemie and is hospitalized in serious condition. At the end of the email, he says, please down for my daughter, Ahuva Bas Tzipora. But through all this, you kept me going strong. I did not miss a day this year. The night of her accident, I sat down from 2 a.m. till 3 a.m. to do the daf. Credit to you for making sure that the day doesn't go by without learning, and a major credit to you that my wife knows half of Masechtas Yivamis because she heard me listening to her by her bedside. Unbelievable. His wife knows Masechtas Yivamis. Please down for my daughter, your Talmud. Over here, Rabbi Sai, the Chevra in Alaska. The Daf in Alaska. Yisrael Meir Cohen, Alaska guy. Shalom Rebbe. Here you'll find the picture of me and my dad's workers and my dad on his Hebrew birthday doing a siyum on Yevamis. Unbelievable. Around the world. 1 year anniversary. Tomorrow is the 1st year anniversary of me learning Daf Yomi. I started at the beginning of Beitza. We had a bunch of guys that their 1 year anniversary was Sukkah. Now it's Beitza. Since starting, my whole appreciation and Geshmak for Torah has changed to a different level. When I went down the well-trodden route, Gateshead, Mir, and Koilul, during that time, I did what I had to do during the Zman. I learned, and Bein Zman, I'm ashamed to say, I barely opened up the Sefer. After leaving the learning world, I soon found the days turning into weeks without me learning. When I did try to learn, I would be Chumash Rashi for 5 minutes, enough for me to say that I had learned that day. Baruch Hashem, in capital, Baruch Hashem for finding MDY through Dov Harris's status. A boysai, you put on your status, you can change people's lives. I can now say that I learn a Daf Gemara every day, even on days where I would never have dreamt learning. Motsei Shabbos, Motsei Tisha B'Av, Yontev. Thank you. Looking forward to being in MDY based measures next week. Warm regards, Shimi Rubin, London. He's going to come next week. I have no idea that I even read this email. Okay, you're going to have to remind me. Yeah? No, London. This bacher came over to me yesterday, right after that. I realized from this mail, he goes, this is the first time in my life that I learned every single day in Ben Azmanim. I'm very proud of him. Avrum Epstein from Motsei. And Rabbi Sai, I don't know if the volume will work, but here it is. Our one and only Nachman Seltzer and his son, Yudah Tzvi, who comes every single day. Oh, here we go. Let's see the audio first. It works, but I like the way he looks at, this is unprepared. These are pros. He looks at his father. What do I do now? Harmony or regular? Harmony. Watch this. What is this? I don't know. We'll see. He says, what do I do now? You missed it. You got it. didn't work well. I forgot to say, Rabbi Nachman Seltzer was a star soloist in Miami Boys Choir. Whoever doesn't know, has a gewaldige voice, and we have the privilege of hearing him very often in our shul right here, right behind us. No. To this one for a second. Boring emails today. Next. Whoa, this is gonna be hard. Okay. Further, this is your brother-in-law, Leiby. Further to your stressing the importance of being emotionally attached to one's wife. It's interesting to note that when the Torah describes Adam and Chava living together, the pasuk says, "Vayeda Adam es Chava ishtoi." He knew his wife, implying a neshama attachment from Yitam and Manchester for a year now, loving every Shiur, Shkoyach, Yeshua Katz, Mechutin of Rabbi Bernard David. Rabbi Isai, the Koilel, is sponsored by Rabbi Anonymous from Lakewood, in zchus of all the new people that joined. The second sponsor, by Avi and Rachel Kamyansky, in memory of Rachel's mother, is the Gittel Bas Esther. Rita should be Melita Yosher, on behalf of us and our children. The third sponsor, the Refuah Esther Bas Tona Beton. Masechta is sponsored. The entire Masechta. The Nishmas is Baruch ben Moshe Aaron. The Nishmas Elazar ben Natan Shalom, and for that hatzlacha b'chol yanim of my children. Second Masechta sponsor, Jeff Rosner. Zchus my son Yosef Simcha Chaim ben Sarah Refuah Shlaima. And the Parnas HaChodesh, Dr. Avrum Epstein, in memory of my precious Southern Belle, wife, mother, and grandmother, Rita Gay Epstein. Her neshama should have an aliyah. Second sponsor, Chodesh, Michael Bemela, Motty Perl, and Aaron Hirsch, to be to make it to Uman Rosh this year. And the MDY Committee, Ezra Yaakov, Ben Yitzchak, Ezra Pollak. I keep on getting message after message, the amount of people and the types of people. Yossi Klein, the Chassid. Don't worry about it. Yossi Klein went in from Motsei. Can you imagine a Chassid in a more of a YU kind of environment, sitting there for I don't know how long, and then Maran Nakash and all the guy, the whole. He said, the father said, Hani said that anytime somebody comes in, he doesn't recognize him, he knows right away. This is an MDY person, and the amount of people that. All right, so Yishkar for the Chesed, it's unbelievable. Mamish Mishpacha. By Mordechai Sapoznick, the zchus nishmas is the Ezra Shimshon, Horav Shimshon Chaim, Ben Rabbi Nachman Michoel. The Broch means the Shama have an aliyah, maybe a meditation for all those that learn his Sfarim and the ones who publish his Sfarim, Rabbi Nachman Seltzer, and all of Klal Yisroel. I'm not making this up, it's in here. And this is very interesting. I brought the first thing I said was Reb Sruli Bornstein, and I remember this guy from 3 years ago because I got confused then. No, the second sponsor today is Sruli Bernstein, Lili Nishmas. I remember, wow, Sruli Bernstein is sponsoring the shit. Lili Nishmas are from Lake Ben Meir Halevi. L'schus my sons, Yehuda Leib and Meir. Leib should have a successful new year, or they should both have a successful new school year. For Daniel Adar to have hatzlacha in his fundraising efforts. Rabbis, here we go. Daf Nun Zayin Amud Beis. We're holding by the wide line. Igias Mavelin Yisu. So they have 12 months to get married, or 30 days if she's an almana. And the time comes and goes, and they didn't get married. And the husband or the chassan, he's a kohen. Omar Rula, Dvar Torah, Arusa Bas Yisrael Oichela es betruma. If she's only engaged, not even married, she could eat truma. Shenemar v'koyin ki yikne nefesh kinyan kaspa. He acquires, and by being mekadesh, this woman gives her a ring. It's a sort of an acquisition. He acquired her as a wife. So she really, she deserves to eat his truma. So then why not? Why don't they eat truma? Amud Beis. Here. Ula says, Shema yimzugu kois b'veisavia. So like, she's going to have all this truma food, bring it, and where's she living? She's only engaged, she doesn't have a house yet. She's going to bring in the food from the kayin, which is truma, and the Yisrael who eats it, it's and it's going to get mixed up. Okay, so 12 months came and went, and they didn't get married, but she's still in her father's house. Why does she have the right to eat the truma today? Because the chasan, when the time comes and he can't get married, at least he sets her aside, he rents her a room and says, okay, go over there. So there's not going to be a problem mixing up foods. So if a kayin works for Yisrael, he shouldn't bring a sandwich to work. Dilma, maybe somebody from the Yisrael's house is going to see a sandwich in the fridge and eat it. And the sandwich is truma. If you're so concerned that people are going to get mixed up with different people's foods, then how could a kayin who works for Yisrael eat food in his house? Says the Gemara, he's a luckit, he's a sharecropper, he works hard for his money, he's counting on the Yisrael to give him lunch. He doesn't come with his own food, he eats from their food. Here's the picture for Simcha. A person could have a mum, and he doesn't know about it. So he gives his kala truma, which midaraisa she's entitled to, and then when they get married, he notices that there's a mum that he can't tolerate. So he's going to annul the engagement retroactively, and it's going to turn out that she ate truma as a Yisraelis, not married to a kayin and not engaged to a kayin for a full year, and that's a issa d'oraisa. The word simbain means bittul, to be mevatel, to cancel. So Rashi says when a person has a shtar and you pay up the shtar, you get a receipt. The receipt is called a simbain because it's mevatel the shtar. It's mevatel. There was a king who was very short, and blind in one eye, and had war scars all over his face. So he brought in a bunch of artists to make a nice painting of him. So the first artist looked at him and drew a picture exactly what he looked like. He was very upset. He says, "That's how you want to depict me?" Fine. Second artist heard that, so he made him 2 feet taller, got rid of the scars. He wasn't blind anymore. He says, "No, that's not me. Out of here." The third guy, he took him, put him on a horse, and gave him a bow and arrow, and the arrow blocked the eye, and he was, focusing and then closing, so his face was all so you couldn't notice that he's short, you couldn't notice that he's full of scars, you couldn't notice he's blind. He said, "Oh, that's what I want. Perfect." Every one of us has mumim. We all have our shortcomings. And we all like to focus on our significant others' shortcomings, like this, like that, more or less. The trick is to put the arrow by the blind eye and not see those moments, turn a blind eye to the blind eye, so to speak. Okay? But this guy, he can't turn a blind eye to this.
Put him on a horse. Just put him on a horse, that's it.
It's all in the head. Zakti Gemara. So he sees something he's not going to be able to. He can't live with a woman like that. So Mela, it's batal. Perhaps there's a full nisuin. They're completely married. It's also not enough. He still didn't see a mum. Says the Gemara, Hasa Mivdak Badigle Love Hadamayel. The way it used to work is they would send people that had public bathhouses. So he would send his mother to the bathhouse to make sure that everything's okay. So he knows already. At that point, he knows whether or not she has a mum. What if you buy a slave? You buy a Kayin slave from Yisrael. A Kayin buys a slave from Yisrael. So now, at that point, he shouldn't be able to eat truma. Why? maybe the slave has some mum. And if he has a mum, you're going to return him to the original owner. What are you selling me a slave with a big mum? But until that point, until you realize he has a mum, till you go to the bathhouses with him, whatever, the mikvah, you're not going to know. So for 3 days, he's eating truma, and he's not allowed to eat truma. Says the Gemara, this idea of simcha and ba'avadim, leka. There's no such thing as simcha and ba'avadim. Why? If it's a vision, it's a mum that you could tell right away. So he sees right away when he's buying him, he sees he's missing an eye. I don't want such a slave. And if it's underneath his clothing, who cares if he has scars on his body? He's a good slave, he schleps good, that's all I need. He doesn't care. But what about if he has other mum? We're talking about a slave now. What could go wrong with a slave? Either he has some exterior mum, so you notice it. Either has something that you can't notice, who cares? He's there to work. Or perhaps nimsa ganov oikuv yustus. Maybe he's a kidnapper. That's not good to have a kidnapper around your kids. You bring home a kidnapper. Shkoyach. Higiyai. You deserve it. It's okay. Everything's good. Why? Because says Rashi, Stam Eved is a kidnapper. It's a ganov. So what else could go wrong? Ma'ika. Listen to Mizuyan. This is already next level. He's an armed robber. Oy muchtav l'malchus. Says Rashi, muchtav l'malchus is a guy that really ticked the king off. The king says, whoever finds him, kill him. No problem. So now you buy a slave. You paid $100,000 for a slave. He's walking down the street to buy some groceries. The guy comes over, chops his head off. And he gets an award. There's a $50,000 bounty on his head. Who wants a guy like that? That's mamish. Simple. It's retroactively, if I bought a slave like that from another Jew, it's okay. I mean, fine, whatever you want to say the svara, but the bottom line is, he shouldn't be eating truma. Says the Gemara, we're not concerned about that because at the end of the day, everybody knows that's the guy that has the bounty on his head. Michti. Bein lemar or bein lemar. So now if we take a look at both of them together, we have Ula and Rav Shmuel. Whether the reason is that she might mix up the sandwiches in the fridge, or pour some truma wine to her brother, or he might find a mum that he doesn't like, either way, she can't eat. She shouldn't be eating truma, my benayu. So then what's the difference between the two svaras? Benayu kibel. What if he accepted upon himself any mum? Any mum. So now, in terms of simping, we don't have a problem. We're not concerned that maybe he'll find the mum. Because even if he finds him, he said, I'm going to take her no matter what. But if the problem is she might mix up the food, that's a problem, whether or not he's Mikal or not. Interesting. By Avrum Avinu, they asked the question, it says that Avrum Avinu never saw Sarah, but how he was Mikayim the whole Torah. And it says you have to see your wife before you marry her. So they say this thing, Kibo. Avram Avinu is Mikal himself no matter what. But I don't know how I'm thinking now. It doesn't really. Does it help the hatzlacha kamoicha part? He's not going to divorce her, fine, but it doesn't mean he's going to like her. Okay, he's Mikabel that he's going to like her. That's what it is. Fine. Or Mosar, if the father, we had that whole Mishnah, the father gives over his daughter, the Chana, to a shliach. So at that point, there's no concern that she might give food to her brother. She's no longer in her father's domain. V'halach, or the father went with her, the same, that Mishnah over there. The problem of Simbain remains because once the chassan sees her, he might back out. But there's no problem that she might feed her brothers. Once the 12 months come, or the 30 days, he starts supporting his kala, and he could give her, he's a kain, he could give her truma.
You think my mother-in-law is Simcha?
Rabbi Zai, today is halfway through Kesubos, right? Halfway through Kesubos. Daf Noyach. Fine. You just reminded me of that. I have no idea why. Michti. Fine. Now, so we have a shayla. How much truma could he give her? 100% truma, 50% truma, 30% truma? How much truma? Now, the issue is because a woman, throughout the month, she's going to have days that she's tamei, she can't eat truma. So now what? So Reb Tarfon says, give her whatever you want, the whole 100%. Huh? No, this is after 12 months. After 12 months, that's what we're saying. After 12 months, he's miyachad r'makom. After 12 months, whatever. That sort of thing. Says the Gemara, when a girl who grew up in a house of kohanim, she knows what truma is. She knows that when she's told me she can't eat truma, so even if he gives 100% truma, she knows what to do with it. She's not going to eat it. She's going to go sell it and fend for herself. But if she has no experience with truma, the most you could give her is 50%. The rest you have to give her in chulin, so she knows what to do with it. She could eat it. More, he says. Another. Machlokes ba'arusa. This bas kohen, when she's engaged, we have machlokes that if like Reb Tarfon says, the chassan gives her 100% truma, she doesn't have to sell it. She has a father. She lives by her father's house. Her father will sell it. Have you ever seen a girl go out there and then scream in the street, apples for sale, whatever? It's not something that a girl does. Avu b'nesua, divrei hakol mechza chulin umechza truma, because of the pasuk kol kvudo bas melech pnima. A woman belongs at home. She shouldn't be in the streets screaming and selling her merchandise. And therefore, you are mechuyev to give her. You don't say, "Oh, I gave her enough truma. Let her go and sell." No, that's not her. That's not her thing to do. And therefore, you have to give her some chulin, some food that she could eat on the days of Tumah. It's talking about it. Rashi brings here that he gives her nesua, the husband, like he has a special place for her. He doesn't eat with her every night. There's a certain arrangement that they have. It's an interesting marriage. You stay in that room over there. I'll give you your mezainis. Fine. There's a famous story with the Divrei Chaim. Every chassan knows the story that there was an almana who came in and says, "I don't have parnasa." He says, "What do you do?" She says, "I sell apples." So nobody wants to buy from me. She says, "Let's go." And he took her to the marketplace and he started screaming, "Apples for sale, apples for sale." Of course, all the chassidim of Divrei Chaim came and they bought the apples. So I asked the chassid that told me the story once. I said, "But what happened the next day?" He said, "No, you don't know how it works by chassidim. When the Rebbe screams apples and everybody buys from the Rebbe, they see this is a woman you buy apples from. So they come the next day also, every day. He doesn't have to do it every day. One time is enough. Fine." Zog the Gemara. Estrix for sale. Estrix for sale right over here in Queens on, what's the boulevard's name over there? What? What number? 718 or seminary girls for sale. I mean, there's a seminary for sale, seminary, whatever. The nicest Israel I have here. Cut, edit, put it on a reel.
Just focus on Nachman for now.
Look at Nachman. Wow. He doesn't know what to do with himself. Tanya Nami Hachir, Tarfon Oimer, nice and law. He goes from saying that a girl should not be in the street. It's not a place of a woman to be in the street. She should be in her house. A second later, sure, the guy's nuts. Tanya Nami Hachir, Tarfon Oimer, nice and law hakol truma. Okay, so we have the Shittas Rav Tarfon, which you said already. How much could you give her truma? Everything, 100%. Rabbi Kiva Omer, mechza chulun mechza truma, only 50-50. B'medvar, we're the same thing. Rabbi Isai freebie. B'medvar, we're bas koyin lekoyin, bas Yisrael lekoyin. But if she's inexperienced, she doesn't know how to deal with truma. The Reakol mechza chulun mechza truma. Everybody agrees. Rav Tarfon agrees that you must give her something to live on, 50%. B'medvar mamurim. This is abaya. Barusa. This whole thing is when she's still living with her father, so her father can take care of it and sell it for her and make some money. She doesn't have anybody to sell for her. Her husband is a mean guy, puts her in a room somewhere to feed her. She doesn't have a father there anymore. You have to sustain her, give her 50%. Rabbi Yehuda ben Seir Oimer. Now we have a new shita. 2/3 and 1/3. 1/3 chulin, 2/3 truma. The interesting Chassam Sofer goes through the cheshbon here, that typically speaking, when you take into account, I thought it was fascinating, take into account the days of Nida, but also the days of Keri. She becomes Tomei from Tumas Keri, from being with her husband, makes a cheshbon, how many days, a month. you have about a third that she's tameh and 2/3 that she's tar. And that's why he says two handfuls, two thirds of truma, and for the 1/3 of the month that she's tameh, she gets chulin. Rabbi Yehuda Omer noisen lo hakol truma v'moicheres v'likachas b'domim chulin. Rabbi Yehuda says give her 100% truma, and she is responsible to sell and do whatever she has to do. So, what's going on here is as follows. According to Tarfin, you give her 100%. But what happens when you have, let's say she eats 10 pounds of food a month. So he gives her 10 pounds of truma. The problem is when you sell 10 pounds of truma, what do you remain with? 8 pounds of truma. 8 pounds of chulin. It's worth less. Truma is worth less. So she doesn't even have enough food to live off. Rabbi Tarfin says too bad. So according to Rabbi Yehuda, what Rabbi Yehuda is arguing with Rabbi Tarfin, they're basically saying the same thing. Rabbi Tarfin says give her 100%. Rabbi Yehuda says give her 100%. But Rabbi Yehuda says no. Give her 100% that she remains with 100% of food that she can eat, that she remains with 10 pounds of food. You start her off with 12, so that when she goes to the market and she sells, she'll remain with 10. Rabbi Tarfin says no. If she eats 10, give her 10. She has to sell and she's going to lose, too bad. Yeah, sort of, kind of. No. I mean, maybe he does care. Let her give it to some guy that takes a cut. And then we don't care. That's the whole point. If she eats X amount, I give you that. You figure out how to get the money. You'll have to pay 50% to somebody, it's 50%. It's your problem. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel Omer, Kol Makom Shuskar Truma, Noisen Lo Kiflayim Bechulin. You have to give her that much, so much so that she has enough to buy the chulin. My benayu, benayu tircha. So according to Rabbi Yehuda, she's going to have to go out there and hustle to get the food. But according to this shita, she doesn't have to hustle. If anybody could sell anything, if the price is right, within a minute. So give her enough that the price is right. There's a story, I don't know if they say it's an emesis story, you can look it up. A guy bought a car, it was like a holiday weekend, like right now, like, what's the holiday? Labor Day. The guy goes, he buys a car, $100,000 car. He buys it, the next minute, he turns around, sold it for $70,000. The next minute. So the manager over there called the cops. Like something's weird. He just paid $100,000 and he took a $30,000 loss on the spot. So the cops call and it's that. Basically, nobody's around because of the holiday. So he sat in jail for 4 days until the end of the weekend. So when he came out, he was able to prove that there's no monkey business. He bought it for $100,000, but he sued the police and he made a crazy amount of money because they incarcerated him for no reason. But that was his whole plan. So no, but there's something like I could buy a car for $100,000, sell within 2 minutes for $70,000. I could buy any real estate. If I say now who wants to buy my apartment for $500,000? 10 people will come and pay on the spot. So that's what you have to do for him. If her husband dies and they didn't have children, the husband didn't have a child, so she falls liibum to her brother. But until his brother. But until that point, she cannot eat truma. My time making kaspi has to be an acquisition, he has to acquire her, and there's only a zika, there's only a bond until he gets married. V'hai kin de'echavu. Da'achavu. This is only she belonged, so to speak, back then to the brother. But once he marries her, look what the pasuk says. Yivama yavi alel, ulakacha lo leisha. She becomes a full-fledged wife, and then of course she eats truma. Also, she says in the Mishnah, if she was married for 6 months to the husband, and then she was zkuka to the Yavim for 6 months. So what's the double case over there? She was first case. I get. It says in the Mishnah that if she was 6 months with the husband, or let's say 12 months minus a day with the husband, and then 1 day with the Yavam, it's not enough. And then it says, and if she's 12 months with the Yavam, minus a day, it's also, of course, if she was married for 11 months, engaged for almost 12 months, so of course, and she doesn't get truma, she doesn't eat today truma, so certainly if she's not engaged, she's just skuka to the Yavam for 11 plus months, she shouldn't get truma. Says the Gemara, something that we never like to say, but if we're forced to, zu ve'ein tzarich lo zu. Because sometimes we build on a chiddush. We'll start with the Yavam and say, listen, if he was a zakuk, there was kukim together for 12 months almost, they don't get truma. And then you go to the next case, and even if she was engaged, but you don't start off with the heavy case, engaged. So sometimes you say, zu ve'ein tzarich lo, you're right, we didn't have to say the second case. Zu mishnah rishayna. So in the beginning, when the 12 months came, she gets, 12 months come and go, she gets to start eating truma. But later on, they said, no, not a good idea. My timer, what happened when they switched their minds? So again, we're going back to the 2 reasons why a kala, you see Gershon, the 2 reasons why a kala should not eat truma. One is because of simcha, maybe she has a mum. One is because of shemitashka. So they decided, you know what? At the end of the day, maybe he'll find a mum. If he finds a mum, even though the 12 months came and went, she shouldn't eat truma. Says the Gemara, so according to Ula, makes a lot of sense. We started with the reason on the right. There's no reason anymore. Why? Because we're not concerned that she's going to switch out the food because he gave her a nice room somewhere. But we're still concerned, says Ula. Even Ula agrees, we're concerned maybe he'll find the mum and they'll know the whole engagement. And it'll turn out that Yisraelis ate truma. El Rav Shmuel Daf Nun Ches Amud Beis, El Rav Shmuel Bar Yehuda, Kamaisim Mishum Simcha and Basvaisim Mishum Simcha. According to Rav Shmuel, the whole reason is Simcha. The reason why you don't eat the whole 12 months, truma, is because maybe you'll find the mum. And then 12 months came and went, and we said she could eat truma, and then we took it back. We said, no, you can't eat truma. You know why? Because maybe you'll find the mum. That was the whole reason to begin with. So then what happened? What happened in between? Says the Gemara, my benai. So the first reason was maybe there's a mum. Second reason is maybe there's a mum. The first 12 months, maybe he'll find the mum and he'll cancel the engagement. Month 13, also maybe he'll find the mum and he'll cancel the engagement. When a mother goes to the bathhouse and looks for a mum, is that considered a good bdika or not? In other words, the guy's going to say, Ma, what, you didn't notice? What are you doing? She said, nah, it's nothing. Shtusim, you can live with that. No, I can't live with that. You can live with that, not me. So is that considered a bdika? Do you rely? You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, my mother checked her out. But then tomorrow you're going to get married and you're not going to like what your mother checked out. And Mamela, that's the concern. That's what they came up with afterwards. We cannot rely on mothers. We can't rely on the sisters. Are you tiny? You're putting on a muzzle. Okay. The Imrei Emes says, he takes this line over here. It's a very nice line because there are people that love to fake their midas. Big balamidas, this, that. But the real way to check midas is a bdika mebifnim, the wife. The only person that really knows a person deep down, knows if the person has the midas is the wife. You can't fool your wife. You can't fool HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's bdikas pnim. Sponsored, Shkoyach, in honor of Yankee Baum and Moshe and Brach hatzlacha Aninim. The zchus, being able to support Liban HaTorah, Shem Weiter, and to finish learning Shas with Reb Eli. Zok Deilig Mishnah, also sponsored by Moshe Cohen, the zchus, for Liban HaTorah and continue hatzlacha and parnasa, Hamagdish, Motsei, Yidei Yishtai. So, there are 2 categories when it comes to Motsei Yidai, 2 earnings that a wife has. One is the basic, that we're going to discuss the Mishnah later on, and that is that a woman, she has to produce 5 slime of needlework. Everything beyond that is extra. And in return for the Motsei Yadayim, the basic, the husband gives her mezainis. And in return for the extra, everything above the 5 slime, she gets allowance money, called a ma. She gets extra spending money. Okay, that's the basic. We'll see. Machloik is here or there, but so hamagdish ma'aseh yedei ishtay. Big tzaddik. He loves Refuah Shlaima. He says, you know what? All the earnings that my wife makes, she goes straight to the Beis Hamikdash. What he said is shtusim. We don't listen to him. She continues producing, earning, and using the money to buy food. Hamoiser, but what about the extra? Everything above the 5 slime. Rabbi Meir Omer Hegdesh, Rabbi Yochanan San Lo Omer Chulin. Now, Rashi says, in this case of Hamoiser, you have to pay attention here, because it could be a little tricky. Hamoiser just means, says Rashi, that he never was Magdish, the Ma'aseh Yadayim. All he did, he said, I am Magdish, the Moiser. Okay. Omer Avun Omer Rav. Very interesting. A woman is permitted to tell her husband, I'm a lawyer, I earn $300,000 a year. I don't need your $200 worth of food a year. I don't need it. I'll support myself, thank you very much. She can do such a deal. Or perhaps she can't do such a deal. So it depends. Who is this deal for? Is it for the husband or is it for the wife? Are we trying to protect the wife or are we trying to protect the husband? If we're trying to protect the husband, so what? Who cares how much money she earns? It's not up to her to decide whether or not she wants to stop working. But if we're trying to protect her, so she has the right to do whatever she wants. It's interesting. I just saw briefly that they discuss bisman hazeh. If indeed a woman is a lawyer and she earns all this money, does her husband actually have a right to say, give me your mezainis or not? And they say that since women, bisman hazeh, don't really work jobs that are exclusively for women, lawyers, this, that, so husbands don't have a right. It's only when they work specific jobs. Okay, ayin chum.
Can you give us an example of some jobs that are just for women?
Yeah, I do. I have a job. There's only a woman could put you in your place. So the takana is for the wife to make sure that she's set, that she has something to eat. And therefore, if it's for her, then she can be Michoel. She can say, listen, I want a different deal. So once the husband supports her, he's mechuyev to support her. Okay, so this is Shaila, Machloikis, is the support midaraisa to the Rabbanan. But if Rabbanan instituted that he has to give her food, so they said, listen, it's not fair. He's giving her food and everything, and then she goes and she earns a salary, she doesn't even pitch in, help out a little bit, I'm struggling here. So they said, okay, Ma'aseh Yadayim is for the husband, Shumevas, they shouldn't fight. Now she has the right because it's to protect her. Meisvei, so let's see if this works. It says mefurish, the opposite. The mezainas is because she gives Ma'aseh Yadayim. It's not he gets Ma'aseh Yadayim because he gets mezainas. It's the mezainas. Why does she get food? Because she has to give the earnings. So it's the opposite of what we said. Says the Gemara, you're right, we have to sort of fix it up a little bit, or maybe not fix it up. Some say it's not to fix, but to understand. Ema, tiknu Ma'aseh Yadayim, tachas mezainas. Fakir. It starts, what's step 1? She deserves food. Step 2 is that because she deserves food, he gets her earnings. Not that step 1 is that he gets her earnings. And because he gets her earnings, therefore he has to support her. Says the Gemara Meisvei. Now, what does this have to do with us? Because our Mishnah. Perhaps we have a right from our Mishnah. Our Mishnah says that if a person l'chayr doesn't have the right on his wife's earnings, because he went ahead and he said, I'm giving everything she earns to the Beis Hamikdash, and she doesn't have to listen. My love bin zaynis. Says Rashi, and this you need Rashi. Just reading this, you wouldn't understand. Says Rashi, we're talking about a guy that's wealthy, and he wants to. It's only in his head. Not that he physically gives her mezainis. He wants to support her. And nevertheless, he doesn't get Ma'aseh Yadayim. Says Gemara, Ma'ila ben Mezainis. So again, Nachman. Mezainis doesn't mean she gets mezainis. He wants to support her. We're talking about, no, he can't even afford it. As the Gemara, if you can't afford it, Ma'ila Meimra. If a guy is not supporting his wife, he can't even support her even if he wanted to. So of course she could just say, Michael Tavis, let me support myself and I'm going to take my own salary. Says Gemara, and the Gemara continues. If you have a slave is like an animal. Are you chayiv to feed your cow? No, you can just milk until the cow goes bye-bye. Like the famous Maisa, the guy stopped feeding his horse. Every day he decided, I'm going to train the horse not to eat. So every day, so one day he gave him half, and the next day a third. Kids, after 10 days, the horse was shvach, and finally he didn't give him anything, and then the horse dropped dead. He tells his friends, wow, 2 more days I would have had him trained. Fine. This ain't, I say, imi ve'eni zoncha. I'm going to work you, I'm not going to give you anything to eat. What's going to happen? Die, okay. So, even if you say you could do that with the slave, in the pasuk it says, Yarshin, what's going on today? You hear? So by Jew, this is a Jewish slave. He doesn't want to leave his master after 6 years. He doesn't want to go. The Rotzah don't say, but he says, and from this we learn that you have to feed your slave the same steak that you eat, the same pillow, the same thing. Not your slave, your Eved Ivri. But that's to say, I'm not going to feed you, that's only Eved Knani. Eved Ivri, a Jewish slave, of course he can. She's not even in the same category. Of course you have to support her. Says Gemara, Moisar. We're talking about the second part. That he didn't say, I'm giving the salary to the Beis Hamikdash. I'm giving the extra, the over the 5 slime. On that, now, by the way, if he didn't ever pay her the allowance money. He didn't give her the allowance. He didn't give her. He still gets her the extra. Why? Because he owes her the He'll owe it to her. Says the Gemara, Upligi the Rish Lakish. Rav Huna argues on Rish Lakish. That what? Rav Huna is the first line. That a wife could tell her husband, I don't want your food and I'm not giving you your salary. But Rish Lakish says differently. Rish Lakish, don't say that this Moiser Hegdish, right? Remeir says that the Moiser, the extra salary above the 5 slime goes to Hegdish. A husband has the right to say that. Exactly when that happens, after she dies, before she dies, we'll see tomorrow. But Remeir says, don't say that the reason is, but it didn't come to this world yet. Again, he says, my wife, when she makes her salary next month, part of it I have no right to. That's the basic. But everything above and beyond, I want to give to the Beis Hamikdash. Why? Because maybe the pshat is, Reb Meir holds, I have the right to give tzedakah something that never came to this world, like her salary. But the reason is, at the time of the Reb Meir, he could force her. Oh, so over here you see a shita, Rish Lakish holds, he could force her. I can force you to work. Unbelievable. Your hands should be kaddish to the one who created your hands. HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's a beautiful lashon. Lo say it. You see that he could force her to Ma'aseh Yadayim. Says the Gemara, according to Rish Lakish, you could force, according to Rav Huna, you can. What do you mean? It's nasa ka'imar law. It's as if he told her your hand should be kaddish, but never spoke about her hands. He said your salary. When your salary comes and it's not in this world, it should be kaddish. And you want to say that that's not the pshat of Remeir. The pshat is he's being magdish her hands. Yichap, her hands that exist. I'm not magdish something in the future. I'm magdish something that exists right now, her hands. And anything any handiwork that she does with those hands that exist, she become Kaddish. But he didn't say that. And the Mishnah doesn't say those words. He's putting words into his mouth. Says amazing. You see this, the famous chart of Erechim, we've been using it a lot. But this is in the Torah. The Torah says that if a person says, I am going to give the value of a baby that's 3 months old to the Beis HaMikdash, there's a set value. It doesn't matter if your baby is an actor, whatever, he's worth more. Every baby is 5 shekel. That's it, 5. But what if a person says, I'm giving the value of a 2-day-old baby? It's not in the Torah. The Torah says from a month. It's hard to see over here, but it says chodesh ad chomesh shanim, the first line. And you have to be 30 days old. But he didn't say that. He said 2 days old. Says Remeir ein adam meitzit dvar lo atala. A person doesn't stand talk shtusim. Everything a person says has meaning. He had some intent. His intent was to give the true value of a 2-day-old baby. I don't know what that is. Go to the marketplace, figure it out. It's not 5 shekel. It's something else. It could be 10 shekel. It could be even more. That's just, the Torah says a certain amount, but you have to give a different amount. So over here, because what he said doesn't make sense. Since so why is he saying that what your handiwork should go to HaKadosh Baruch Hu? Obviously he's talking about her hands, not the salary. Says the Gemara, the famous Gemara of Atanya, I want to marry you after I become a Jew. That never happened yet. So in other words, that's this guy read, you become Jewish. I'm a slave today, I'm going to be free. You'll be free. This is bad. But he tells a married woman, I'll marry you. Here's money right now. I'm marrying you after your husband dies. Whatever, your sister will die. Your Yavam will be chayil to you. Today, the Kiddushin are good because in the future something's going to happen. So you see where Meir holds, we're not concerned about things that are not in this world. You have the ability to make kinyanim on that. What the Gemara is trying to say, don't prove that Remeir holds from this sugya. You're right, Remeir actually, he does hold it. What the idea was, don't prove it from here, because we could be talking about, he's talking about the hands and not about a future thing. Have a wonderful day. A guten Shabbos. Motsei Shabbos. 9:30 Motsei Shabbos. 9:30 Motsei Shabbos.